We'll now go to Mr. Chong for 6 minutes or less.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to our witnesses for appearing. Can you tell us when the review will be complete? And secondly, will the review be made public?
Thank you very much for the question. As was identified in the news release that came out on Friday, the review is, our participation in the bank is indefinitely suspended while the review is ongoing. I do not have a timeline for the completion of the review at this stage.
Can you tell us whether or not the review will be made public?
Whether or not the review is made public or what form the review takes upon its conclusion would be a matter for the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance to decide once we have a chance to.
Thank you. Can you, for the benefit of members of the public who might be watching, can you tell us how much money the Government of Canada has transferred to the AIIB?
Yes. The shareholdings of multilateral development of the international of the AIIB, much like other multilateral development banks, is divided between callable and paid-in capital. So we can have that conversation, but just in terms of the amount of money that has been paid into the institution, the Government of Canada has paid in $159.2 million US currency.
Thank you. Divide by 3 times 4. About $200 million or so Canadian, roughly. So Article 7 of the Articles of Agreement of the bank provides that a member may withdraw from the bank by providing 6 months notice in writing. That article further notes that a member shall remain liable for obligations to the bank to which it was subject on the date the withdrawal notice was submitted. So my question is, if Canada were to withdraw from the bank, what would be the extent of Canada's existing financial obligations to the bank?
I think that there's 2 important pieces of context that are important to understand. One is that the withdrawal procedures that you see in the Articles of Agreement of the institution mirror withdrawal procedures from various other multilateral development banks of this type. And those procedures have only been used, I think, twice in my knowledge. So Cuba withdrew from the World Bank and the IMF in the mid-'60s. And I believe France withdrew from the Caribbean Development Bank about 23 years ago. And the reason I provide that context is to say that there is a lot of untested legal ground with respect to the withdrawal of any member from the AIIB or other institutions. With respect to the 6-month provision that is in the Articles of Agreement is intended to provide a protection to all shareholders and the institution itself, that if the institution were to face financial difficulty, that members would not be able to instantly withdraw and therefore forego their share of those financial difficulties, which are hypothetical. The AIIB, in this case, is a AAA-rated financial institution from all 3 major debt rating agencies. So I think that the question of that issue of what we would be liable for is a hypothetical question that is not relevant in the current context.
It's safe to say that we wouldn't immediately get back all of the $160 million US dollars that we have contributed to the bank.
What the Articles of Agreement do say with respect to the withdrawal procedures is that a member that withdraws is entitled to, it would have the institution repurchase the shares that it has purchased in that institution. So while those procedures have not been tested, it is our understanding that Canada would receive compensation for the shares that we have purchased to date.
We know that the PRC has set up this Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank as a rival to the post-World War II world order to try to displace U.S.-led multilateral institutions, Bretton Woods institutions, post-World War II institutions. this bank being one of their attempts to do that, to offset the World Bank, IMF. Recently, there's a proposal in front of the IMF to increase the quota by 50%. It's a U.S.-led initiative. The PRC is opposed. What is the Government of Canada's position?
The question in front of the IMF right now, as you said, is to increase quota, which is the technical term for vote share effectively at the IMF. That vote is open for governors of the IMF until this coming Friday, and members, including Canada, are continuing to vote through the next couple of days to signal their intent. I have not seen how other countries are voting on that yet. I think that's an open question. So with respect to how other countries will end up voting on that, it is unclear to me. But based on conversations that have been had at the board of directors of the institution, it is our understanding that that vote will pass.
But what is Canada's position?
And Canada has been supportive of an increase of 50% quota
thank you.
at the institution.
Thank you, Mr.
That's all
Chong.
the
Your
questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.